Hi everybody, we are going to be going through a demo of SQL. Don't run. You don't have to be scared of SQL. Hopefully you've watched the companion video, which is a chalk talk that really walks through why we believe that integrating and connecting SQL data stores into LLM-based workflows, we think is going to be one of the key tools and technologies that we would encourage everybody to be developing in 2024. And what we're going to do here is we're going to walk through an out-of-the-box demo. This is going to be a getting started demo. What we're going to show you is, number one, how to get the SLIM-SQL model, how you can pull it down in just a minute so that you have a text-to-SQL model running locally on your machine. And then the second thing that we're going to do once we have that, we're going to run through a series of automated tests so you can start to get a view of how the model works and the kinds of outputs to expect from it. And then finally, we're just going to do a very basic hello world that's actually going to show you how do you use this model, how do you actually create a prompt to start running a text-to-SQL query. So what you see in this example, we've mocked up probably the simplest customer table schema imaginable. It is just a few column attributes with some very basic data types. But we believe this is actually very representative of the kinds of experimentation that most people are looking to do. The most common pattern that we believe is you'll start with some type of CSV file. You'll look to take that CSV file, convert it into a SQL table, and then use that SQL table locally to start experimenting in how you can run natural language queries against it. So with that as the context, the query that we're going to ask here is just, what are the names of all the customers with annual spend greater than $1,000? We're going to take that sample table schema. We're going to take that query. We're going to create an agent. The agent is going to use its SQL method and the SQL tool that you had downloaded in the previous step, the SLIM-SQL tool. It's going to combine then that query and the sample table schema, and then it's going to give us that output. Now, again, remember, the output here is just the intermediate output. It's the conversion of that query against that table schema of what the SQL statement would be. What we're going to do in the next demo is we're actually going to show you how do you go end to end. How do you go from converting that natural language question into the SQL query and then query the database and to get that output. And again, we've put together all the pieces to go do that. But for this, we just wanted to give you a very quick way so that you could go ahead and get started. Let's run the demo. And as it's running, I'll spend a minute explaining what we're looking at. So the first time you pull this down, the SLIM-SQL model is going to be downloaded from Hugging Face. It takes about a minute. And then what you're going to start to see, it's going to click through these automated tests, which show the natural language query, the SQL statement, and the answer. And then finally, again, it moved pretty quickly through this. You can see the last part of this where we actually mocked up our own customer table, and then we ran a query. But let's go back because it all happened really fast. Let's just go back and take a look at this. So as I said, it's a one-step install to download that model. And one thing I should probably say, just so there's no confusion, we call a lot of these models tools. And that's because our view is that that's really what models are. Models are tools. You provide some input, you're looking to get some output from it. So we actually use the name tool to refer to the fast quantized versions of our models. So when you see that it's a tool, it really means we've taken a PyTorch model, it's gone through a GGF process, it's been 4-bit quantized, and now you actually have something that can run locally on a CPU, and as you can see, actually running really, really fast. So it ran through this series of automated tests where it asked a query. The query then was packaged with a simple table structure. You can see the response from the LLM. This was the LLM output. And then we packaged with our sample data just the gold answers. So you can see some of the differences between what the LLM output and what the expected gold answer is. What you'll see is a very high fidelity, but not a perfect fidelity. And as I mentioned in the first video that we did on this topic, this is an area that requires a lot of experimentation and tuning to get the prompts right, to get the queries right, to make sure that the way that you're even asking the natural language queries map well into the database. In some cases, what you'll see syntactically, the output from the model is well-formed SQL, but if you actually dig into it, you can see it made some assumptions about the structure or the underlying dimensions of that data that may or may not be right and may or may not actually work when we query the database. Again, when we look at the next example, we're going to dive into that in more detail. But what you can see is the model pretty quickly generated Again, syntactically accurate SQL statements. Maps up reasonably well. Again, not perfectly, but it's going to map up reasonably well against the gold answers that we have here. And then at that point, we have our model. So you have it running. And so the example that we wanted to run through is really reflected here. So what we wanted to do, and I'll actually go back up to the code just so we can look at it for another minute, is this example here. We just wanted to run through and show you how you run a prompt on this model. And again, you need these two inputs. You need the sample table schema. You need the query. You pass both of them to the agent with the SQL method. And then you can see the agent has a great journaling capability. So it shows you all the steps that were actually being processed. You can see the query. You can see the table schema here. And then this is the output that the model gave us. You can see some of the other metadata from it. And then we've captured at the end what the total output was and all the information of that step. So hopefully this gives you just a very, very simple recipe. It's only a few lines of code. So the code is not complicated, but I would really encourage everybody, if you're new to this area of text to SQL, spend some time to really understand the code, understand how you package that prompt, and understand what the model is doing. If you do that, you're going to be really several steps down the path of doing some really, really complicated and really cool stuff in terms of using text to SQL in conjunction with really complex LLM-based patterns. Hope everybody's enjoyed this demo. All of the sample code is available in our repository in the SLIM Agents example folder. Stay tuned. Next video we're actually going to go through is an end-to-end example where we're going to go full cycle of actually taking our text to SQL statement, querying the database, and then retrieving and getting the output from it. Thank you, everybody. Take care and have a great day.